Alright, so Psychopaths. The show's been out for over a year now. I finally got to watch it. I hadn't heard about it for a long time, about a week or two now, really. It's on Netflix now, so that's where I got to see it. And reading the description, it seemed pretty cool. It really reminded me of Minority Report because the actual description is like basically if someone seems like they would commit a crime, they get arrested. So I was like, oh, it's like Minority Report where people kind of see into the future, like this person does commit a crime. They just don't actually see into the future is more like a suggestion thing. But seeing the actual episode is not really like that, or seeing the first episode, I should say, it's not exactly like that. But I definitely enjoyed the concept. I actually like that way better than just they have this machine that can see the future and stuff. It's really if something happens, it's kind of just like stress, really, where you go through, and the more stressed and crazy you seem, the more, basically the worse you are when you get judged. So it was really interesting to see that. And what I love about that is the fact that, and they even introduced this in the very first episode, that when you get stressed out, it's possible to go from being at your very peak, which when you're at the peak, you can get executed in this show, to decreasing back to a point where you just get taken in for help. Excuse me. And that was something that I really enjoyed. It's like that, it's just a real life thing. They just take it to this really serious extreme where you can be, basically you can be a criminal and paralyzed, and they take you in for help. But if you get too far, you'll get executed, and they use lethal force. And so the main character in the show, he's like the silent cop guy who just, he kind of does his own thing. He's not really a cop, he's actually one of the criminals, which is one of the cool things that they introduced. They haven't, of course, it was the first episode I've seen, so thus first impressions. But it starts off with him going up against this random guy, and I don't know, it seems like it's the end of the series and then they take you back to the beginning of it. I believe that's how it is. And so he's one of four people that they show in the series known as enforcers, and they're criminals that actually work to kind of take out these other criminals. It kind of, for anyone who might know Dexter, it's kind of like that, except everyone knows that these people are criminals. So he's the main character. We don't get too much out of him in this episode. Like I said, he's the silent type. And then we get the new rookie cop sort of deal, and it's sort of that type of anime where the new rookie is the one who's going to be, despite the fact that she's not the main character, you can tell she's going to be the main catalyst that kind of drives the show and changes the way that things work in the series with the main character. And the very first day, she gets this crazy job where it ends up turning into something really serious, where this guy was a simple criminal. He got scanned by something, and he just had to be taken in. And it kind of drove him nuts because once that happens, you're just a criminal. So, like in real life, when you're a criminal, it's much harder to get a job and things like that. But in this case, he mentioned like he couldn't get simple employment, he couldn't get married. So it's almost like if you're deemed a criminal, you're basically cast out of all society. That's how it seemed. And that drove him deeper and deeper. And he was like, well, if that's what they call me, that's what I might as well be. And he was like cutting this woman. He heated up a knife and was cutting her and stuff. And it's really serious. They didn't show any of that really, but it was getting to that point where it was very serious, and he was gonna rape her and stuff. So it's a very serious, mature anime if you do want to check it out. But it was just very interesting psychologically how they mess with the characters, and it showed in this first episode that the woman who is going to be the catalyst, who's the rookie, and she has to work with these people who are kind of by the books, where if it says you're getting paralyzed, you get paralyzed in 2 seconds. If you're set for execution, I'm going to execute you in 2 seconds. She's going to be the one who has to struggle. And the first thing that came to my mind when watching the show is that if it goes based off of stress and things like that, she's gonna have to really, really be careful because she works around these people who instantly play by the rules. And she could go from someone who's just plain and simple to a criminal to someone who can get executed, because it's like simple stress. It can compound, especially if you feel like you haven't done anything wrong. Like you made a simple mistake and then suddenly you're wanted by the police and they want to take you in. That will raise your stress levels. It'll mess you up. So it was really interesting to see that. And the main thing they did in the first episode, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but of course it's the first episode, I'm giving my first impressions, but she does really get into the aspect that people can change despite how crazy some people are. Some people can still come back from the craziness that happens, even if they are the criminal or if they're the victim, which they also introduced in this episode. They say that some victims, under that stress and stuff, can end up becoming criminals, which I thought was amazing that, you know, they take it to such an extreme level. It's really just based on stress and fear and things like that, but they make it that if you have these high levels, it means that you're likely to commit a crime. And I thought that was really interesting because it makes it so incredibly strict simply to live in this world that it makes it really interesting. And some people, like the main character as well as the three other people who are known as enforcers, they can still survive in this world because somehow they made a deal where they live as criminals, but they help get other criminals, and then other people aren't as fortunate as that, and then they can be driven deeper and deeper into the point where they have to be executed. But I thought it was an amazing first episode. Like I said, it's very bloody. A death that they had in this episode was, for anyone who's seen Akira, it was detailed like that as far as I was concerned. But it looked like it was going to be simple. I thought the guy's arms were going to pop off. Like, he gets hit with this bullet, or it's sort of a bullet. The weapon they use is really, really cool. I like how the gun changes and stuff, so that was pretty sweet. But he gets hit with the gun, and it goes through both his arms, and his arms kind of swell up like he has just a ton of bumps on his arms. And I thought it was going to just blow his arms off, but it travels through his entire top half, and he just expands until he pops, and it's just like, and then just blood just pours right down, and the only thing that's left is his bottom half. Like, it's just a perfect line, and the top half of his body just bursts into blood. So it's a really bloody anime. It gets really serious, as I mentioned, with the guy who like kidnapped this woman and was torturing her, and he was gonna rape her. So it does get really serious if you can't handle stuff like that, whether visually seeing all the blood or just mentally thinking about what may or may not happen to some of the victims in this series, then it's not for you. But if you like a visceral show that does have a really good plot to it, at least from simply based on the first episode, it seems like it has an interesting premise and a character that, you know, the main character being the silent one, I know we're going to get more information out of the rest of the series, but the woman who's going to be the rookie cop, or who is the rookie cop, I like her character. She seems to be like the one who's in the middle, where it's like she's the normal person that the audience can really connect with, because it's like, well, if this type of thing happens, clearly they can come back from it. No one just gets stressed out and then just stays stressed for the rest of their life and becomes a real danger to anyone. They're just freaked out in this moment. So she's the one you're really attached to in the first episode, so you have a really easy into the series to get to experience the world through her eyes as the rookie cop, having to learn the different ways, and we get to see all sorts of cool stuff. But definitely check it out if you never have. Like I said, very mature, very bloody, but definitely seems like it's going to be a great series. Season 1 is on Netflix. I'm not sure if it is the entire series. It probably is, just because typically speaking, most anime is just one season, 20 or so episodes done. But definitely check it out because it's definitely a cool one. If you have seen it, please put your comments below and let other people know whether or not you think it is worth checking out. Please don't put any spoilers, just because this is a first impression video. I don't want to just, of course, spoil the rest of the show for anyone who does come across this. But if you have any comments to put on the show, if you think it's worth watching, even if you have any random information as to whether or not you think people should even read the manga, if there is a manga, which most likely there is, but not always. But if you have any information, of course, put that below. If you have anything, if you saw this video, then you went to watch the episode, please come back and let me know whether or not I was right or wrong. And thanks for watching.